What's up, everybody? This is Darksinne here, back to some more StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. What you're going to be watching right now is Darksinne versus the World ladder matches. Today's game is going to be my first placement match of the new season. That's Season 3, 2013, I believe, is the right number. So we're going to see right away what I'm going to be capable of in this season. Hopefully this is going to be a good season for me. Some of you may know that I have signed myself up for what's that, DGL, the Do Gaming League by Telkom. So hopefully that's going to work out well for me. While I'm casting this game, I'm also going to be showing off my build order, because some people have asked me that they would like to see it and how they're going to be and how it works. Basically, you guys can see that the timing on my pylon there, all of these things are pretty important. Some of them are fine-tuned, except for the one probe that was moving around earlier. But you guys can just keep an eye on the production tab. I'll leave that open. I won't move around too much from there. And you guys can just follow my instructions. Just re-watch the video a couple of times with no audio if you find that my voice does annoy you after the third or fourth time of watching it. But that's going to be it. This is basically a working build for me. I found it to be quite functional, especially starting off in Bronze League and playing against fairly new players. This works quite well. I say fairly new, but on about your 60th match, I don't think that you're a new player anymore. But you're still not quite gold or platinum material for that matter. So right away I'm going to go ahead and scout my opponent here. Stefane in the bottom right hand corner is going to be the Zerg. I think it's supposed to be a play on the name Stefano, maybe trying to intimidate me a little bit, but that's obviously not going to work. Do drop my forward pylon here. Oh, excuse me. Do drop my forward pylon here behind some trees to maybe obscure the view. Some players that don't have the hit point bars up will be unable to see that. It'll only show up on their map once they've scouted it. But sometimes people don't even look at that. I do go for the double gas nice and early in this game, because I want to be putting out units as fast as possible. I want to be very aggressive with this build. I say as fast as possible. The units could be out quicker, but I want decent units out quick. So I don't feel that this is quite a cheesy build as much as it is an aggressive build. I think this is an interesting build to me. I really enjoy using this. Because it shows that your opponent, to your opponent that you're going to be aggressive, and that you're not going to be, you're going to be setting the pace of the game. I do also have two probes in each assimilator. I do get the third one in there, but the 2 is basically just so that it's better than 3 in 1, which is exactly the reason why you have 2 assimilators up. This means that your income is going to be, your gas income is going to be just enough to fund your stalker pushes. So I'm going to have that out there. My opponent, on the other hand, is going for a fairly standard build as well. I think that's a pretty early gas, especially as Zerg, because he doesn't even have a Roach Warren up yet. So I think it's a little bit unnecessary to put his gas up that early, but he is going for a relatively early expansion by about the 4.5 minute. How do you say 4.5th? I don't know how that works. Anyway, my opponent does have his expansion up before the 5th minute. So he is building on that. I am moving out with my stalkers now. I'm going to be fairly aggressive with these. I'm moving out with my mothership core now as well. My mothership core is very vital to this build, especially with Zerg, because Zerg have so very few ground unit or ground to air units that it's going to be a lot of damage coming, free damage coming from this mothership core. I do have my additional stalker up, so with the 2 stalkers and the mothership core, you should have more than enough damage to really move into an enemy. And at this point, I am looking for the base timing of about 6 minutes. Where this expansion is only just beginning, meaning that there's going to be a very small contingent of my opponent's army and a lot more drones. So most of his money is going into his expansion, which is great for me. So I'm going to be using that as my basis for the attack. I'm going for my expansion now as well. So expanding off of this attack is actually exactly what you want to do, because you want to make sure that that for every aggression that you have an equal but opposite reaction on the end of your base as well. So that's going to give you the advantage that you're actually looking for. I'm trying to take out the spine spoiler, but unfortunately I do get the surround on me, dropping the time warp just much too late, and I do get surrounded on these stalkers. I do have one additional stalker that probably could have gotten in on the action, but I do end up losing him as well because of the surround. But at this point the Mothership Core is just doing free hits, and I think that that's actually the main point. Obviously I did a lot of miss micro, and it really cost me those units at the start of this game. These Zerglings are doing a run by. They're probably going to be scouting for my base, and if he found my base right away, I would have been in quite a bit of trouble. But because of this aggression, excuse me again, because of this aggression, I feel that I'm able to take care of whatever units he has left, which means that this is going to be completely undefended as I move up here. Only a couple of spine crawlers, but the spine crawlers are in a position to prevent me from doing a run by on that end. But on this side, I'm actually fairly safe. So moving in with these units, I'm going to see if I can take out that spore crawler. I see the spine crawlers now, and I move back away a little bit. All the while my expansion is up, and I am putting some probes in there, spawning in some additional stalkers as well. My opponent is just using his queen to try and defend against that push, and I take a lot of hits on my Mothership Core, actually too many, because the spore crawler even gets an additional 2 hits out on that. So I try to keep my units behind the mineral line here so that I don't take hits from the spore crawlers, which is spine crawlers, excuse me, which is really important. Warping in more units, being aggressive. I'm putting down a robo facility which is going to allow me to build some immortals, and immortals are exactly what I need at this point, because my opponent might be looking to put down a roach warren eventually, and I think I'm keeping him quite concerned with keeping this base safe at the moment. So most of his money is ending up there. In fact, most of his little larvae are actually going into that. So the safest thing for me to do at this point is just to keep attacking and maybe moving in with those immortals eventually. I was just concerned about my opponent taking up on the back of this as well. Being ready with those roaches would have been a little too much for me to handle. But these spine crawlers are being quite a hassle. I'm having trouble taking down this hatchery, but eventually I do. And there we go, the hatchery does go down. My opponent does lose his queen, and this is an enormous loss for my opponent, because I believe that even though I've lost so many stalkers right now, he just lost 400 minerals to that little attack of mine. I'm going to try and take out some of these spore crawlers, because spine crawlers. I keep making that mistake. Sorry guys. To these spine crawlers, because they're just going to cost me an enormous amount of money at this point. Moving in my Mothership Core to try and do as much damage as I can. I do drop my time warp a little bit better that time, but Zerglings are just so fast on creep that it's just ridiculous. And I do end up losing this army as well. I'll try to reinforce it a little bit to do as much damage as I can while I am producing my my first immortal, which is going to help me immensely against these Zerglings. I am almost losing this pylon, but my Mothership Core is just taking 3 hits, and my opponent realizes that. But I think my opponent should have really stuck through and maybe taken out that pylon, because it might spell disaster for him later. I realize that his army might be on the move to find my base at this point, so I'll make sure that I have a couple of zealots back in my base along with these immortals. The zealot should be able to hold the line while the immortal picks off any units at the back there, but these zealots do ridiculous damage against Zerglings. I've actually forgotten how well Zerglings do, or zealots do, against Zerglings. Sending in his second wave now. My Mothership Core is still attacking here because there is no anti-air defense. So I'm going to keep pushing there. I have my stalkers warping in on this end as well instead of back there, because I realize that he might have an additional attack coming in as well. But fortunately my units over here are just so ridiculously powerful that they can take care of anything that the Zerg can throw at me. My Mothership Core is still doing some damage. I think he is moving a queen out here as soon as he is able to again. But all the while the damage that I'm doing to this hatchery is just free damage at this point. Warping in some additional stalkers, and I feel like my army supply is much greater than my opponent at this point, meaning that this battle so far is really in my favor. I don't think that he's going to be able to recover from this. Even though he's sitting on so much, he does not have the larva to be able to make a large enough army to defend against any sort of push that I would make. He's putting down a couple of spore crawlers, which is going to be great for him because that's going to chase my Mothership Core away. But this is great for me as well, because I believe that's 150 minerals for each one that he put down, and that to me is wasted space, because most of my army is ground army. So these 3 defenses are going to keep my Mothership Core away, but it's not going to be enough to keep my my ground army away, which is looking quite menacing. Not just these 4, but also these 3 immortals over here, and the 3 immortals are really like the craziest push that you need. This is basically like you can all in with these units and you can do a sick amount of damage, especially at this timing. About 14 minutes, 12 minutes would have been better. But because I've been applying so much pressure to my opponent, he's only getting his expansion now. So that means that the timing The timing attack does delay a little bit, which is great for me. I'm moving out these units now. This is going to be more than enough to take out my opponent. We look at the army supply, it's completely in my favor. Almost losing some of my units to these Zerglings, but luckily my Stalkers do move in just in time to save most of them. I do have one of the original Stalkers left with 4 kills. My Immortal with 7 kills up the back here is going to be the real hero of the day. I believe my Mothership Core is actually the hero of the day. She has just done so much. 14 kills actually. Eventually going down to some of these queens and the spore crawlers. Man, it's because the words sound so similar. That's why it's so hard. That's why I make mistakes, guys. It's not my fault. It's Blizzard. These units are moving in for the kill, and I think at this point it is over for my opponent. Stefan did do very well against this, but I think that he could have prepared a little bit more by just microing. Actually, I don't know. I actually think that this was an impossible to beat build. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please like and comment if you did enjoy it, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. Bye.